check out what I found in my stash of old kayak crap. Rod holders. Don't need those. Make those. Those are kind of useful. Those are for going in the existing rod holders. Back rocket launchers. My old game clip from California style, keeping your fish on. That's one of the mounts that go on the outriggers. The guy in California makes those for me. But no, this is what I found. That, my friends, is a sign. I thought I threw this thing away. I had this rigged up in one of those dog food containers for the Wilderness System Tarpon 140. Well, this is over 10 years old. It's Tsunami T500. If this works, this might get us going. Oh, it even has the tip. So that's the spray tip that controls the direction and then the amount of flow. God, I just bought all this stuff. Oh, I've got a insert. That's the scoop, so that you could self-prime the pump. Basically goes like that. Holy crap. Everything. What is this? Oh, that's a drainage tube. See, this is all the stuff that I made for my Livewell tank. And I had all this stuff. I thought I looked for it, I couldn't find it. Man, that is... And that actually might work out for what I think I'm going to do. I went ahead and built a quick little transom saver here. Had some 1/8" aluminum leftovers. Unfortunately, I don't have enough to do the backside, but the backside really wasn't the issue. I was just really gouging up the front. I'm not sure how whoever owned it before didn't scratch it up, but the few times I've used this thing, it left a bunch of rings, but this should protect it, so we'll call that done. All right, I think we're going to be jumping way ahead and actually start working on a Livewell system. Now, the plan was to go down the road a few months or even till next year maybe before I start dealing with the Livewell tank up here, but we've got some time. It's been constantly 2025s, so I've got about 5 more days before it breaks. So I figured maybe we will do this. Plus a sign came out when I found this old Livewell pump from my old Wilderness System 140 dog food container setup. I actually looked for this when I was doing my bait tank for the Hobie, but I couldn't find it. But then it just popped up today, so I figured, hey, I found this, so maybe that's a sign. So I've been thinking about what to do. Now, for a Livewell system for this, I'll show you the basics. It comes with a tank, which is actually storage slash Livewell tank slash cooler. And it's basically this here. This is a nice little tank. I don't know, 5 gallons maybe. It's not really big, but it'll do. Got this plug here, and what it does is it goes straight down to the water. So it's a sealed tube that goes straight down into the water. So without a plug in it, water naturally will seep in and out of it. I actually, because of the hatch design, I never use this hatch to even be able to see how much water comes in. So on my next testing, that's what I'm going to do, run it a little bit to see how the water interacts with this while you're sitting, while I'm sitting up front, on the move, in rocky water, to see how that water works out. I mean, it would have been great if it just stayed at a level, but I think the water level stays very, very thin because of the depth of it. It probably water lines to there, so it might be a couple inches on the bottom. But if I set up a pump and a line to it, I could use the water inlet and then do a depth tube that runs up, which will guide how much water level there is, and then the overflow will go down the tube and straight out. So that's kind of how it's going to work. But the challenge is to get that pump set up on here and to feed this thing. Now looking at it, I see there's basically 3 spots where I could put the actual pump, and this is what's going to push the water there. Now starting from the front, and that's also why I built this hatch, so I have access, so when I do work on this tank I would be able to get to it. Otherwise there's no opening that gets to this vicinity there. But now I've got plenty of room. If you look here, this is the raised level inside the hole, but actually underneath it's a tunnel basically. I guess that's designed to keep the skiff tracking straight. But that would actually be, because it's recessed up, it would be a perfect spot to put that pump. So basically I would drill it into there, insert this down into the hole, seal it up, and then boom, I would just have to run a tube to my inlet portion there that has a proportioning valve. So that's very easy. The only thing I don't like about that is having it so front forward. I don't think it would be an issue where that's going to be coming out of water and causing disturbances, but I don't know. I think when you're beaching a lot and you're coming up to the boat ramp, you just have to be careful that this inlet is not sticking up, that it's totally underneath this. If that's the way it's done, then if it'll fit, then it's not so much of an issue. Second spot is in the middle hatch area here. Same basic thing. You've got this raised portion, so that's kind of a tunnel underneath, a cavity that runs down. It's probably that same extension that goes all the way to the front, and I could do that same thing, drill a hole here and put that head here, and that would be the intake source, and then I would just run a tube hose all the way to my inlet over there. So that's an option. Then the third option is all the way in the back, and I'm thinking this is the one I'm going to do it 2 different ways. Just kind of, I saw that there's really not a lot of information about adding a live well to these things, or a pump. So that's kind of odd that there's so many of these out there, but I think people have an issue with drilling an underwater hole basically, especially straight on the bottom of these solo skiffs. So nobody really, or not that many people do it, and then there's definitely not that many that have filmed it. I think I found like 2 or 3 videos out of the whole internet. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do an experimental one where I've got one mounted back here. It's going to be boom, using that same indented rudder opening here, so that'll kind of protect it, and then run a long hose and a long power cable, because my battery will most likely end up being up front or in this mid hole here, and I'll leave the hose exposed, so it'll be running just right along this corner here instead of drilling into this to have an inlet and then the hose going down the side rails. The reason for that is to build something where people that are afraid to drill into their hole underneath can still run a live well. And the only holes that I'm going to put into it are actually going to be shallow, and it won't actually go down into the hole. You remember these, kind of see it here, and I think this is actually half the thickness. I don't have one of the plugs. The actual hole itself is about a 1/2 inch thick of the actual plastic, so there's plenty of meat there to run short screws. So this is how my setup is going to be. So really I'm going to have this cutting board plastic, and I'm going to cut a little 3-inch, maybe 4-inch wide piece. It's going to go basically to right about here. Then I'm going to make 6 holes, and then I'm going to do them flush mount screws and make sure that they only go in maybe that 1/2 inch, or I'll cut the tip off so it won't penetrate the inner skin down into the actual hole, so it'll be just going into the plastic. And if you do that, you can just take your leftover shavings from any of the other things that you might have cut, and you could basically just plastic weld over those holes, and you would never have to know that they even existed. But I'm going to use that, a strip there, chunk. Then I'm going to drill an exact 1-inch hole, which is just slightly smaller than the threads on here, so it's going to be a force into the hole. And then that hole will be right about there, and then it's going to overhang, and then this actually will sit right about there. And then you can see the inlet that I've got from my old system will line up perfectly with that indentation there where the water pushes through. And plus it'll be higher than the actual bottom of the skiff, so I don't have to worry about it hitting anything. Except if I back into something, that would be an issue, but otherwise there we would go. Because the thickness of this, the plate, and how tight I'm going to drill the hole for it, it's going to be such a flush fit that there's not going to be a lot of front to back movement when the pressure hits it. Plus I'm going to do is to build some sort of mount, so I'll be right about there, and with some hose clamps. I'll hose clamp here, and have some sort of bracing that goes around the neck of this, which pins it up top here. Plus the hole pinned in there should make it where it just does not move at all, and that'll be good. Then I'll run the wire and the hose. I'll just wrap the wire around the hose so it all stays together, run it right along the corner there, maybe put a toggle switch somewhere along here, just an on off that I could reach down, because I don't like to just let it continually run. There's not going to be enough volume where I'm going to put that much bait where I'm going to need to keep it constantly circulating. So I have an on off waterproof toggle switch, or maybe even on here, and then use the rod tubes that I took out when I put a faceplate there, drill into this and just have the hose go through that, come through, loop back around, and then go into my nozzle head that's into the actual Livewell tank there. So that'll be just an outlet here, bolted there. It'll have a male fitting sticking out, and that's what the hose will go to, and that'll be the whole thing. And it'll be basically 6 small screw holes that don't actually penetrate the hole, so you don't have to ever worry about it even leaking for whatever reason, and it's easily patchable. And that'll be it. And then the other good thing about it is that this will be removable, just the power head. If I don't want it on there, I could basically unscrew this, pull it out. I'd have to cut the wires or whatever, and then I could take the head off, push the hose through, and or take the hose out, and it wouldn't even be existing. You would never know it was there. So that's the first way I'm going to kind of do it. And then down the road, I think I am going to probably drill it, and actually either here or the middle one, probably here, might as well, and just put the pump head right there, nice and simple. Everything will be self-contained, and the only difference is that there's going to be a hole through the bottom of the hole that just have to make sure you do correctly. So I think that is the plan. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down. Basically, that's the only thing that's going to go through it, so that's the only width it has to be, but I'm going to make it a little bit wider, so probably where it flattens out to there, and then the equivalent, because I need to line it up with this. So this is my center point, it's going to be, so probably 3 or 4 inches, and then maybe keep it squared on this side and then out whatever this distance is. So let me do that real quick. All right, I went ahead and trimmed down the cutting board to a manageable piece. Then I drew a kind of a rough center line so that I know where the opening is there. It's going to basically run right around there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the hole for this first, and I'm going to make it sit in far enough that it clears this washer nut. So the diameter of this washer nut, I'm going to make it come right to basically this edge here, and then I'm going to drill that hole, then place it. Then I'm going to come back and figure out where it needs to sit in this direction, and then I'll figure out how I want to cut this chunk as a mounting point. So where the circle of this goes, or where the mounting point of this goes, will determine the dimensions of this piece. So I'll know how far in and out it needs to be, how left and right it needs to be, and then I could draw basically how I want to cut it out, and then I can cut it out. So let's do this part next. All right, I took the washer nut off so I can figure out exactly where I want it to cut the hole. There's a little bit of a taper right along here, but I want the nut to go right to the straight part so it sits flush. So I think right about there should be good. So I'm just going to put a dot there with my pen, my marker. I'm going to drill a hole and then mount the tsunami. All right, used our little hole saw to cut out a hole there, nice and neat. So I'm going to clean it up with the razor blade. It should be just slightly smaller than the threads, yeah. So that's going to be perfect, because I want this to be as form-fitting as possible. The reason being is that that's going to stop the sloppy movement front to back from the force of the water. So the more contact through that hole, the better. That's also why I went with this 1/2 inch thick cutting board versus some thin aluminum or metal. All right, I just used a little milling bit on my Dremel just to clean up the hole. And now, boom, slips in there, nice. So let me put that nut on there and we'll see how it sits. And there we go, nice and flush. So that's going to be solid. And the key thing is that it has no play. Doesn't move around because of the thickness of the plate there, so that's excellent. I might not even need to do the brackets, although I probably will. So let's go mock this up and then see how much we need to cut down the plate. All right, there we go. It's right at that port, so that's perfect. The reason for this, and then it's cupped in the front, is these pumps are need to be primed. They can be put underwater, so that primes them that way. But if there's air in that motor, it'll run, but it'll never suck the water up to be able to start pushing it. So you either have to pour water down the nozzle or force water up from the bottom to get up to the pump in order to build pressure to push water down the line. What this does is that as soon as I move forward on the skiff, water gets pushed into that and then up naturally, and then it primes and then it can start pushing water. So that's why I've done that. It works great even on my kayak. I just do 2 or 3 paddle strokes going forward, and that's enough to push the water up enough to create suction and start pushing. So that's the reason for that. But it lines up nice and neat there. So as I mount this, I'm going to have the back of it touching the bar, so that's going to hold that there. The base is holding it down, so this thing is solid. It's not going anywhere, so that's going to make it nice. And then the other good thing in regards to bolting the plate down is, as the water pressure pushing the base going that way, it's going to actually force the weight of the head down. So this base plate's not going to have any pressure at all. So just a couple of screws will be fine just holding it in. I went ahead, just put some cut lines there where I'm going to cut this down, cut that side down, cut that side down, reduce the footprint a bit. And that should be perfect. This will allow me to do, I'll go ahead and still do 3 screws, or 2 screws, 2 screws, maybe 2 screws. So 2, 2, and 2. That should solidify it there, and that should be enough. Now that made it easy. It's basically a 3-inch by 5-inch rectangle is what I'm going to cut out, and then with that 1-inch hole, I don't know, what is that, 1/2 inch from the edge to the inner edge of the circle is a 1/2 inch. So 3 by 5, perfect. All right, there's our plate all built. I think that'll work nicely. So I think since I cut it down, maybe I'll go to 5, 1 on each corner and 1 in the center, and that should be plenty. All right, brackets made there. I went ahead and used the countersink bit so that these screw heads are flush. Now I think we're just going to go ahead and do final measurements and drill some holes into the skiff and mount this guy. So while the glue is drying on my pump unit and mount, I can go ahead and start ordering some parts. One of the things I'm going to need is 3/4 inch inner diameter hose, as well as any fittings. So measuring here, we're looking like we're gonna, this is 10 foot, that's 11 foot, and then I think roughly to there, to be safe, we're gonna need around 12 feet of 3/4 inch inner diameter hose, and that should do us well. Then I'm going to need a through hole fitting that goes through there, that will come out here, and we'll have my spray adapter that will control the amount of water output as well as the direction. But that's easy enough. Usually those come together, but I might have to get an adapter that goes through, and then the other adapter screws into. But I think that's all I need, actually. So hose wise, I can go to West Marine and buy it by the foot if I need to, but it's probably half the price going via Amazon. So I'll see if maybe, I know they got 10-foot lengths, and then I could always just go to West Marine and get 2 feet if I needed, if I don't find like 15-foot lengths. But yeah, let's go order some parts up. All right, the pump and the mount are mounted. It's all glued up and screwed in, so it's nice and solid. I was thinking about having to put a couple of clamp brackets here, then looping something around to kind of hold that into place to this bar, but it's so solid it's not going anywhere, so I'm just going to leave it. Lines up fine with this little channel here. The inlet is on this side, so water as I go forward is going to automatically go into the tubing, forcing it up. That's going to self-prime the pump, and then it'll be able to just start pushing water towards the front. Only things I need to pick up is probably, I don't know, this is probably some 12 gauge wire. It's a little bit thicker than what I've got, so I'll need some. I've got the two 10-foot lengths of 3/4 inch inner diameter tubing, because I need 12 foot, but no one sells 15. They're only 15 bucks for 10 foot, so just got 2 of those. Came with hose clamps, I'm good there. I'll have to go to Home Depot to get a spliced coupler for the hose, since I need a 2-foot section to wrap around. Then West Marine has the 90-degree slash sprayer head that was going to be mounted right here, so they've got that in stock, so I'll pick that up from them. I need to either make or find someone that sells a 7/8 inch hole tube that comes up, because that'll be the drain tube, which will also be the leveling height of whatever the tube is. So I'll need to find that. And the electronics, like I said, I'll just need to pick up some 12 gauge wire. I think I'm going to keep the battery pack inside this mid chamber here, and possibly put a waterproof switch on the side here, or on the front, probably on the side here. And then keep my battery box in here. I'm gonna have to see if, I don't remember if I hardwired my battery pack for the Kayak Livewell or not. If it is, I'm gonna have to put in little couplers in there so I could exchange them whichever one I'm using, because that battery pack will work perfectly. And that'll be it. Pretty easy. Once I get the hoses in, that's the only thing I had to order, so that should be here in about 3 days, and then I can go ahead and run it through and be done. I just got to drill one hole right here, a 1-inch hole, run the tube through there, put my splice, because it's only 10 foot, so I'll have to splice in 2 foot, put a coupler there, 2 foot of hose here, goes to my 90-degree adapter, which drills a hole through and buttons down to the spray nozzle here, and that's it. So happy days. So check back in a couple days. And just got a delivery. We got my new pliers, stainless steel. Don't like stainless steel, but I was going to use magnetics. Changed my mind, but got them. And then these are my dehookers, but they'll fit right into my tool holder. Bam and bam. So now we're complete. This is the only item that I'll ever lanyard, so I need to get that set up because these fall off and sink really quickly. And these I don't care about because they're the $1.25 store. And these I lose, I'll go get my aluminum pair that I actually want. Alrighty, so I have all the pieces of the puzzle to finish off the Livewell system. I actually added this. I was in line at West Marine. They have these ties. I guess they're like a wire that's encoded with rubber, and then they're twist tieable. So I looped it around the Livewell pump and then looped it around the bar, so that locks it into the bar here. It was already sturdy, but that's just a little extra prevention. Then from there, I'm going to have my two 10-foot lengths of 3/4 inch inner diameter, 1 inch outer diameter hose, although I need a 10-foot and then 2 feet to reach the actual end piece. I'm going to drill a hole through here, and then I'll run the tube through there. To join the two pieces, I went ahead and got a splicer there. So a coupler, that's there. And then for inside the pump, I have a 90-degree aerator spray head that's going to go right there. So the spray head will come out here, and the 90 will be plumbed right basically here. And that will finish the plumbing. Then for the electrical part, I'm gonna have to run a wire, so I went ahead and got some wire, and I'll run that to a box that I'm gonna have inside this mid tray here. And what I'm going to use is my battery box that I built for my Kayak Livewell system. And right now it's hardwired, but what I got were these waterproof couplers, basically this, so which allows me to unscrew it, pull it apart, so I could have it inline here, and then it'll be connected. Then when I want to use the battery box in the Skiff, I just unscrew it, pull it apart, and then the one half will come here where I'll have the other half connected to this other waterproof switch that I'll have attached right on the side here. Wire comes inside, and then it'll have the either the male or female side of that coupler there, and that's what I'll attach the box to, and then so I could swap it out whenever I want to. And that should do it. So since we got everything, let's go ahead and knock this guy out. Some other mods that I'm doing while I was waiting for stuff. I got a 6-inch stainless steel hose clamp, so that's my security for keep them all together there, so not one of them gets hit on the bridge or on a mangrove, snaps the plastic, and then the rod gets pulled out. This way it's really doesn't have the chance to do that, so it'll stay solid. I wanted to block off this section compartment so I could put stuff here. The problem is that if I put stuff in, it would slide back through these two holes here. So I had these life jacket emergency pack, a 4-pack of them that I found out in the mangroves, and then I went ahead and just stuffed these in here, and that creates my barricade so I can put stuff in here and it's not going to get lost. So now I can actually use this compartment, so very happy with that. And oh, I had to start thinking about what I was going to be using this for, and it's the same kind of issue in that there's large ports that things can slide down and disappear there, and these two, well, there's 4 and 4. So I had all these empty ammo plastic boxes, and then they're tall enough that they can't slide back underneath there or underneath there, so they're going to work out perfectly. So what I think I'm going to do is have 2 of them individual color like this, the orange ones, and I'll have 1 odd color one. The 2 similar colors will be for my tackle, and then the other odd color one will be for my safety and legal stuff that I'm going to have to carry around, whistles and all that stuff for the Coast Guard checks and stuff like that. But otherwise I'll have 3 of them, fits in there nicely, plus it leaves plenty of room here. This one doesn't go with me because it's just my straps for strapping down on the trailer, so I'll have this whole compartment up here. I'll probably have to do the same thing I did up front, is kind of fill up these so that they can't slide and lose stuff. The only other thing I really would need to add is my my waterproof box where I keep my cell phone and that stuff in. So that's what I've been working on. So yep, let's get back to the pump. Just slip it on through a stainless steel hose clamp, run it along the edge here. Now I just need to take this off, drill a hole for whatever diameter, 1 inch probably, and then run it through there. So we'll do that next. All right, drilled our hole in our cap there, boom. So this should slide on this way, like that, nice and snug. And this should slide into the hole. Oh, I forgot I had those life jackets in there. Well, that's basically what I did. I just folded it in half. So now, oh, there's a tube there. Let's see if I can get it in. All the way in. There it goes. On the edge. And there's enough play, so let me bolt this back. Well, I gotta glue it up, seal it, because you don't want water getting in the hole there, and then bolt it up. All right, I had to do it backwards since the tubing stopped right here and I couldn't get at it to put the splice on. So I pushed the hose all the way up, put the splice in, then I could run it back down again and then reattach it. Oh, keep helping along here. And then we'll be at the right length there. Now I gotta go ahead and put the spray head in and the 90 degrees so I can figure out where I need to cut this. So let's cut some holes. All right, now we have to determine where we're gonna drill our hole. Somewhere along here. As you can see here, this is the back of the tub there, so it's gonna come out here. But what we have to determine is at what level do we want to put it. Right off the bat, we got to be careful that it has to go below this ledge here. Go above that, you're going to be above the water, the hatch line. So the top of the hole has to be right about there. So I got to go below that, so I can go right around here. I actually like to have the water enter towards the bottom and swirl around, so you're not creating a lot of splashes, so it keeps the water calmer and clearer so you can see it, especially when you're trying to get bait and such. Plus weeds tend to float up on top, so that's why I tend to like to have the inlet on the bottom. It gets less cluttered. But on this circumstance, because this leads into the actual inside of the hole where we do not want water, I'm going to go kind of high. The reason being is once I get my water level established, I want it just pretty much below the water level so it's not creating foam, but not too high where I'm getting up here. So I'm going to try to stick to this upper portion right around here. I think will be good. So once it's filled, it'll go a little bit beyond that. And then most of the time, even when this thing has water in it, I won't have to worry about water leaking into the hole from here, where if I had it on the bottom, I don't have the plug in, I'm just playing around out there, I'm not even in the hatch, but there's water filling up and it's sitting there, and there's a risk that it could leak through, but small chance, but it can happen. So I think right around here, we're gonna go ahead and go for it. I decided I'm gonna drill it from this side, the front hatch, because this has to clear this lip right up here. So I went ahead and put a hole there, so that's where it's gonna go. That should be fine. I basically took the washer That's going to go here since it's the same size basically as this backing round piece. And then just held that so that it cleared. So I know it cleared this top lip. And then I just marked it in the center there. So that's where I'm going to drill it. All right, I feel better now. All right, hole has been made. And get an idea where it's going to come out there. Hello, hello. So yeah, now I just got to screw it in. All right, and that's where it's going to sit, right there. The spray point is right there. This just adjusts how much that opening is and how much water it's going to let out. Or I could even turn it to shut it off. And then down in here, we've got our bend down. So we just got to run the tube and run it into there. And we'll be done with the plumbing. Now that I have this thing plumbed, I think I'm going to actually go ahead and just run it and try it before I do all the wiring, because one of the things I want to make sure that this pump can push that far. So I'm gonna get a bucket of water, stick it under there if I can, and just hook up a battery and see if I could get it to spit that far. All right, I set up a homemade ocean there. So we got our water system. It's going all the way up the tube there. It's blocking off the entryway, but I think it should be fine. Got my little battery for my fish finder, so let's plug it in and see if it pumps all the way up there. All right, let's give this a test run. I'm gonna go negative in there, and then positive. Yeah, see, it's not primed. That's a problem. Alright, so we're gonna have to try to prime this thing. I need to run water down into it, but that coupler is in the middle there. So, let's see if that makes a better seal. It's just not holding. Okay. Yeah, it's barely starting to go down. Well, that worked. It just needs to be primed. There it goes. It works. It's all about the priming. Oh, it's working, it's working, it's working. All right. What I did was I primed it from here. I filled the whole tube with water. Oh, come on, what the heck? So this goes in here. This turn on. There it goes. It's working, it's working. It's all about the priming. Yeah. So I can control the mount here. Reduce that flow or even shut it off. Check our fittings. No leakage. Nice. Actually, I don't want to. I don't want to get my fitting wet because that hasn't dried yet, but it works. So once this is in the water, I won't have to worry about it because that forward momentum will push it up. Pretty sure. I'm hoping that'll be the case. Then I'll have the drain tube. I still need to, I haven't got that in yet. And all it is just the tube that fits in that hole. And then I cut it down to the height that I want the level to be at. Since it's hollow, the water will go in down the tube and out the drain hole. And it'll stay at that height basically if I adjust it so this isn't overtaking the drain. Beautiful. It works. I'm very happy. All right, wiring. So since I'm going to reuse this box and I'm going to put these couplers in between, I can go ahead and just cut this. I'll just keep them even. There. There. So I'll have this in line. And then when I want to switch it from my Kayak Livewell to this Livewell, unscrew that, pull it apart, and then this can come and go inside the hatch. This will be gone. This is my trailer stuff. So this will go in this way here. I've got these spacers on there. They're lifts for my kayak, so it keeps them out of the water, but that'll keep it from bouncing around. And this will have this end on it. Then I'll do another one that runs to here, so then I would just screw it on, and that's attached to the switch, which is attached to the pump, and we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and put the contacts on there in the house and then come out here and do the installation here. So I think I'll have the switch right about here. This is a in and out on one single side. I could have got one so it's in one side, out the other, but then I didn't want all the extra stuff. So I'm gonna have the line running from the pump, wound around the tube, probably come up this, along the bottom, and into the switch here. And then I'll drill a hole there that goes up to the inside, and that will have the attachment to the box. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Wiring this box is kind of a hassle, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a length to fit inside of there. That's what I've got, this 16 gauge I think it is. And then I'll have a long line going all the way over there. I won't attach that or the battery box yet, but I will attach both lines to this, drill the hole, run the line through it, mount the box, and then work on the connectors on the inside here and then over there. I think that'll be the easiest. So yep, let's do that. All right, I have enough line that basically just goes to here plus some extra footage, because that'll be wrapping around the tube there, so I need extra. This will run along here and mount to there. And that goes to the inside of the switch. And then this has a pretty long piece, So this, in case I need to move it, I don't need a lot, will get me to there, and then plus that much. So that should be good. So now I just need to mount these two to the switch. So I can do that inside and make it a lot easier. All right, we are done here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and splice these ends on. I got to figure out, because I got to keep it consistent. This will go with the cap, screw-on cap will stay with the battery, so it'll go like that. Then the two non-cap ones, which are the threaded ones, will go on the ends, on the pump sides. So then they'll connect to there, unscrew it, and like the battery goes to that and connects to that. So that's that. I'm going to use these heat connectors, solder connectors with the meltable tin lid in them, with the external shrink tubing on it, and do them that way. So let me get started. All right, connections are made. So this is the old system. Basically take the plug there, O-ring, so it makes it waterproof, and we're pumping. So then I'm going to go to the skiff and take this off there, and I have this attached to the line that goes to the pump on the skiff, and same deal. So that's what I have to do now. And figure out the switch, because I got to put that switch on there. Even though I have the switch on here, that's going to be inside that console. I don't want to have to open the lid every time I hit it. So I'll have an on-off on the box, and then I'll have the same switch on the outside. So I'll turn this on. That activates power through the system, and then to the switch at least. And then the other switch will be the toggle to the pump. All right, the switch box is done and wired up. It's got two wires coming out of it. One's going into the box here, which is going to get connected to the other end of this, and then they'll be removable. Then the other one's going to run underneath the tool tray, across here, and then down with the tube to the Tsunami. So let's get this wired up first. Well, I guess I'll mount this. I'm basically just going to mount it right about there. So that way the hole there and the wire going into it are kind of protected from the rain. And that should be a good spot. All right, we're done. Got the battery box installed and wired up with my quick release there. Just unscrew that and plug it and put it in my kayak. So that's there. Got the switch mounted in. Toggles on, toggles off. Have it running underneath the tool tray, down, and then it cuts across to the tube, wraps it around the tube, and then to the pump with some waterproof connectors there. And that, I think, is it. I think we're good. Turns on and everything. It's quiet, which is nice. Doesn't pump unless it's primed, but we already tested that. Then I've got two switches now, so I could shut it off there or there. But yeah, pump is done. Now I'm going to fix this thing. Livewell there, all good, happy. The way this hatch is built, it's basically just two pieces of plastic, and it's hollow on the inside with an air gap. So when I actually bolt the two pieces, the backing to my actual latch there, it sandwiches and then creates a low spot in the center right here. So what I think I'm going to do is just put some wedges all around this thing, and then that'll keep it from squishing down and then keep the top part from bowing. So let me do it real quick. All right, the way I'm going to fix it, I just got these little wedges or tabs that I cut out. Seems like about the thickness I need, and I'm just inserting them Bam, 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 bam. And all they have to do is be a spacer, so that should work. I'll tuck them in so they're out of the way, but I think that'll keep it solid enough. Looks like it. And just like that, wedges are in. And then this can go drop there. And it shouldn't affect my spacing at all, so let's put it together and check it. All right, so we got that fixed. That's much better. Locked in there tight, no flex. All right, let me clean up here and we'll take a look at what we've got. Oh, one thing I forgot is I need a drain tube, because it not only drains, but it keeps the water level up. So I need to have a tube, a hollow tube that fits in here and then is cut to the height that I want the water level to be. So I have one on order. I should be here tomorrow, but otherwise I've got this PVC that fits in there. It just needs a little bit of extra bulk to kind of hold it there, and then I could do another thicker piece up on top, which will prevent it from going down. So let me do that real quick. And there we go. Bloop. Nice. I guess I should check it, make sure it works before we go. All right, and we're filling up our little tank here. See if the overflow works. No bubbles. Pumping right along. Yep. Guess I could turn this down a little bit, let that catch up. That's going to control the flow. I want that bucket to catch up a little bit. Open it up again. There we go, that's good. So I don't want it spraying water along the top, but I don't want that nozzle way down where I have to worry about it leaking when it's just sitting. And then it's going to start capping off. And then I have to tune it so that this capacity doesn't overrun that capacity. So I got to make sure that it doesn't keep rising, which I think it is. That's close. I'm going to shut it down a little bit. That seems to be holding. Tides are not rising. That's key. The baits won't be getting beat up with a huge gush of water. You just want to keep circulating water, but you don't want to beat them up, tire them out too much. Yeah, that's about right. So I hit it just good. Perfect. Got good flow. Turn it down just a little bit. Yeah, and that's keeping up no problem. All right, so that's how it works. I spent $20 for nothing for that thing, and it probably won't work as good as this is. Eventually I have to put a screen and a bulb up here, because otherwise like leaves and actual pilchards and bait will actually get stuck there and block it, and then it'll overflow, which is not a problem if it overflows because it just drains out the back. So nice, I think we're good. So I could shut this off. And then that drain will drain down to that level, and that's it. Guess I can shut this off. And that's where it'll sit. It won't go down below that until I pull it out. And it'll drain. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. See if it stays primed. Yeah, stays primed. That seems to be about the flow for keeping up with that 1/2-inch PVC. It's quiet, I like that. All right, I think we're good for a test drive.